Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you so much for joining us. I'm Will Dupree, coming to you from the KXAN live studio in Austin, and we appreciate you being here for our Capitol Closeout discussion. What we're going to do during this next half hour or so is to talk about some of the big takeaways from this latest legislative session, which wrapped Monday after 140 days, and we are still not done just yet. Governor Greg Abbott called for a special session almost immediately after the legislature adjourned last night, and he said it will focus on two specific issues: cutting property taxes and creating new criminal offenses related to illegal human smuggling. We're going to get into all of that now with three guests this afternoon: our two Capitol correspondents, Monica Madden and Ryan Chandler, as well as the host of State of Texas, Josh Hinkle. Josh is joining me in the studio for this conversation. Josh, thank you for being here. We appreciate it.
Thanks, Will.
And we want to turn first, though, to outside the Capitol, where our Capitol correspondent, Ryan Chandler, is standing by this afternoon on what is a beautiful day out there. Ryan, thank you for being here, too. Yeah, we want to get started with you, Ryan, because of the property tax angle of what will happen during the special session. You know, we saw different approaches ultimately lead to a stalemate over that issue during this session. What would the governor like to see happen on this issue during the special session?
Well, you're right. Top Republican leadership has been at almost intractable odds all session, competing to find differing ideas for how exactly to lower property taxes. All three of the top state leaders, whether it's House Speaker Dade Phelan, the Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick, or Governor Abbott himself, have said since the beginning of session this is their number one priority, but they all have different ideas about how to accomplish it. To understand the different dynamics here, let's take a step back and remember that property taxes are one of the most difficult things for the state to legislate, because that's one of the only taxes they do not levy. Property taxes come from school districts and local municipalities, so it can be very difficult for the state to find ways to lower them. Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick's top priority has been increasing the homestead exemption. That's how much of your home's value is exempt from property taxes. The House Speaker Dade Phelan took a different approach, wanting to limit how much your property's appraisal value can increase year over year. Right now, that's capped at a 10% increase. He wanted to lower it to 5%. The governor has now tasked the legislature with doing something completely different. He has allowed the legislature to pass property tax legislation dealing only with a tool called compression, which is essentially using state money to buy down local tax rates, essentially backfilling the money that those schools need in order to get them to tax your property at a lower rate. So now, with the lieutenant governor and the speaker's top issues off the table, the governor is telling them how to legislate this issue, so it should smooth over some of the differences and get to a quicker resolution, Will.
Ryan, you had a chance to hear from Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick about this issue today during a talk kind of wrapping up what happened during the legislative session. Where is his head now as we move into this special session?
So Patrick has said from ever since he heard Speaker Phelan's proposal about appraisal caps that is bad math. He is not going to negotiate it with it, and he has characterized the House's plans as just too expensive and unsustainable. Keep in mind, we came into this session with a $33 billion surplus, which gives us a lot of leeway this session, but the Lieutenant Governor has been hesitant to spend significant amounts of that towards property taxes in a way that might not be sustainable. When the economy turns, we need to make sure that we can pay for the tax cuts that we funded this session. The speaker, on the other hand, still was trying to get appraisal caps, specifically not just for homesteaded properties, but for every property in Texas, including commercial property. Dan Patrick characterizes that as the deal breaker. He said that the speaker would not back off of that request, and it killed the deal. We have not heard much from Speaker Phelan addressing these negotiations publicly, but the House has already filed property tax legislation that could make it across the finish line, addressing that compression issue that we talked about that the governor wants.
Of course, we're going to have to keep following what happens during this first special session, but there may be more in the future. Governor Greg Abbott teased that possibility would be there when he announced this initial one. But really, this might focus on education savings accounts, what some people call school vouchers. That did not pass this session. Do you feel like the governor might take that up in the future at some point?
We know that is a certainty. The governor promised a special session if the legislature did not pass what he characterizes as school choice, those education savings accounts. So we're in special session number 1, and the governor, in his call for the legislature to reconvene last night, said that this is just the first of numerous special sessions. We do expect the governor to call lawmakers back to deal specifically with that education issue, but that could be later this summer. We've even heard as late as September, after schools are already back in session. It's not clear yet how that will turn out. The Senate did pass a plan for $8,000 education savings accounts that would allow families to move their children from public to private school, but that has faced bipartisan opposition in the House, especially from rural Republicans who worry that a plan like that wouldn't benefit their constituents who may not have access to private schools in their area of Texas. So there's still a lot of legwork left to be done for the governor to bring Republicans and Democrats on board with that proposal.
Still so much to cover. Capitol correspondent Ryan Chandler, thank you for taking the time this afternoon to break down those two big issues. We appreciate all your knowledge and reporting about that.
Appreciate it, Will. Thanks.
We will have his colleague Monica Madden join us in just a little bit, so we'll continue our conversation about some of the big legislative issues that are facing the state coming up in just a few moments. But first, I want to turn to Josh Hinkle again, who is joining us in studio. Josh, thank you for sticking by for just a little bit longer. We appreciate that too. As we're going through all the bills that passed and were introduced this session, a number of them are tied directly to some of the investigations that your team did here at KXAN. How does that feel to see the impact the work is having and potentially leading to some changes?
It's really exciting. I mean, some of these investigations we've been working on for years, and this is not the first legislative session that some of these topics have come up. So to see some bills finally get passed and moving to the governor's desk, it's certainly satisfying as a journalist, but also knowing that you are really helping usher in an impact that will really affect people's lives.
And already, Governor Abbott has signed at least 2 bills into law related to the Held Up investigation project and the medical debt lawsuits project that your team did. And I just want to walk through some of these. There were at least 7 bills filed tied to some of those investigations. And if we go to that second page again, there you see Senate Bill 49 and Senate Bill 490, both signed into law related to these. Remind us about what you all uncovered in those 2 projects specifically and what these new laws will address.
Sure. Senate Bill 49 is related to our held up crime victims compensation investigation that we did in the past year. This came from our investigators Matt Grant, David Barrere, and Richie Bowes. Really what this looked at was a division within the Attorney General's office that is supposed to help fund compensation for crime victims or for their families after something has happened. We found in our investigation that there is a big backlog in getting those payments out there. What this legislation that has now been signed by the governor will do will add more funding and resources to that division, so hopefully they can work through some of those issues a little faster and get the crime victims the funding that they so desperately need to rebuild their lives quicker. The other bill, Senate Bill 490, it relates directly to our medical debt lawsuits project that I worked on with David Barrere and with Arzo Dost and with Richie Bowes from our team. This one really started when we got a tip from someone saying that there were a bunch of lawsuits that were being filed for medical debt against patients at a Central Texas hospital. When we looked into this, we found that it's legal, but what the law doesn't require is that hospitals had to give an itemized invoice. And many times what these patients were finding is that they didn't understand what they owed or know that they even owed anything because they hadn't gotten an itemized bill to understand what they needed to pay for. So what this bill will actually do is get them an itemized and an understandable invoice, so they will understand exactly what they need to pay and why before it goes to collection, and hopefully head off some of those lawsuits and that medical debt that was piling up.
Wow, okay, so these two bills signed into law by Governor Abbott, tied to two investigations by KXAN, and then there are 5 other bills tied to them too. So we're just going to walk through these right here. House Bill 30 going to the governor, House Bill 718 going to the governor, House Bill 1998 going to the governor, and then on this page you can see Senate Bill 1414 there at the bottom, sent to the governor, and finally Senate Bill 1445 sent to the governor, related to many different topics, Josh, there, but again, those 5 bills are going to the governor's desk and awaiting his signature. Highlight a few of those and the types of reforms that they'll make.
Well, I think some of the more exciting ones, HB 1998 that you mentioned, is related to our still practicing investigations that came from Matt Grant, Dalton Huey, and Chris Nelson from our team. This was something they've been working on for more than a year and a half to really bring some more transparency to the Texas Medical Board. What we were finding with our investigation was that doctors were coming from out of state but might have had problems in their past, or even their licenses suspended or revoked in other states, but then they were coming here to practice in Texas, and patients knew nothing about it because often it was not posted on the Texas Medical Board website like it's supposed to be. This bill gives the board more authority and power to do some bigger and broader backgrounding with the National Practitioner Data Bank, so hopefully some of these potentially dangerous doctors will be flagged a little earlier. Another one that's very personal for me, because I've been working on this one for 6 years, is HB 30. It closes what many open records advocates know as the dead suspect loophole here in Texas. Essentially, this is an exemption in state law that police have discretion to withhold information, evidence, video in closed criminal cases where someone doesn't go through the court process, and as the exemption is called, the dead suspect loophole, someone who has died in custody is never going to go through the court process, hence the loophole. This has been used broadly by law enforcement agencies ever since it was put in place back in 1997 to keep information away from families and journalists and lawyers who are just trying to figure out what happened in a specific case, but it's kept secret instead. This is the 4th session in a row that Representative Joe Moody of El Paso has brought this legislation to the legislature, and every time it progresses, but it never quite got this far. What really catapulted it this time was the tragedy in Uvalde, because many people feared that the information about the shooter, who also died in Uvalde, was going to be withheld because of this loophole. It had a lot broader support from people like Speaker Dave Phelan, because everyone wanted to know what was happening there, and they want to make sure that that kind of information is released to the families in future incidents. And so it really came down to the final hours of the legislative session. It was a real nail biter, and it was just exciting to see it go through after so many years. And I caught up with some of the families that we've talked to about this investigation ever since 2017, and they were really excited too. Some of them have come session after session to testify in support of this bill. So I think that it was a really cool thing to get to see, and they're really hoping that the governor will sign it into law now.
Yeah, and so we are seeing that being sent to the governor's desk. Not only 2 becoming law at this point for the state, but potentially 5 more. You and your team should definitely be proud of that. And I just want you to give a chance to talk about this article that's on our website now. It says 7 KXAN investigates inspired bills head to Governor Abbott's desk this legislative session. My colleague here on the digital side, Kelsey Thompson, helped write this up. But this is a place where, Josh, people can go and track where these bills are and the successes of your team.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Each one of those 7 bills, we have sections on there where you can see a link to the original investigation, so you can find out how this all happened, and it also has a link to the specific bill so you can track the progress. We're also including some bills that got pretty far in the legislative process but didn't quite pass, because those are things that could be coming back up in a special session or in the next regular session in 2025.
So much to track, again, as we've been kind of chronicling here what all has progressed so far in the legislative session after it ended yesterday. But Josh Hinkle, host of State of Texas, our statewide politics program, thank you for being here. We do appreciate it.
Thank you.
And we want to turn back again to the state capitol, where another one of our Capitol correspondents is standing by. Monica Madden is joining us on a beautiful Tuesday afternoon out there. Monica, thank you for being here. We appreciate that too. And Monica, your microphone might be muted at this point. We're having a difficult time getting that hooked up, so we'll just give her a chance to see if we can get that back up and running again. Josh, I wanted to bring you back in, though, really quickly. We were talking about the special session happening that's underway as of today. Two different issues, property taxes and border security initiatives being the topics of this one, but there is still power for the governor to call additional special sessions, as well as bringing up all kinds of issues during those potentially future sessions.
Right. Lawmakers can only tackle during a special session what the governor has said can be tackled. But they will try to attach different pieces of legislation, even if they have like small related topics sometimes, to try to bring that up. You will see far fewer bills in a special session because it can only last for 30 days. After that 30 days, if they don't have those things wrapped up, the governor can call another special session to deal with those same issues.
Oh, I didn't like my joke about
a new
squinties.
Special session to deal with a new issue. I remember one time in recent history there were 3 right in a row. So we were in the legislative session for dozens more days than after the regular session had ended. Certainly these lawmakers want to go home and start focusing on their families and their other jobs that they have, but there's a lot of policy work that still has to get done, especially when it's a priority that didn't get done in the regular session that the governor really wanted to see pushed through.
All right, so again, we will be following any special sessions that might unfold after this one. Josh, thank you again for sticking around. We have audio back from Monica. She is joining us now live from outside the state capitol. Monica, as I said, a beautiful day out there for you to join us just outside the Texas state capitol.
Indeed it is. Thanks for having me, Will. It's good to be heard.
Yes, exactly. It's always good to have that. And we want to turn, Monica, to this session beginning with a budget surplus. That was the big topic of discussion at the beginning of this. It wrapped rather dramatically with the impeachment of Republican Attorney General Ken Paxton. We did hear that the Senate will, or at least has laid out a tentative date for this impeachment trial to begin. What did the senators decide last night?
Well, basically, when the new panel, this board of managers for the impeachment trial, it's bipartisan. We just found out who those members were yesterday, watched them deliver the articles of impeachment to the Senate. So that was really the first step in getting this trial started in the Senate. Lieutenant Governor Dan Patrick and other senators have repeatedly said that they are not going to comment on the specifics of this case. They're not going to be responding to questions from media about their thoughts on everything, including whether or not Senator Angela Paxton should recuse herself. We haven't heard from her office nor the lieutenant governor on that matter for now, and he will serve as a judge in this trial, really. But now that they have the articles of impeachment, they will be able to set the rules for how this trial is going to operate. The board of managers on the House side will be overseeing the process, but this really is a Senate-run deal. So once that process gets moving on and they vote on some rules of how the proceeding will happen, we will start to see the trial start. The lieutenant governor laid out a tentative date of starting before August 28th. So, who knows how fast that might happen with everything else that's going on in these halls, but we'll be anxiously awaiting when that does begin and how exactly the process is going to play out, Will.
Yeah, thank you for catching us up to speed on those particular developments. I did want to ask you, though, about some of the other legislative priorities that were laid out seemingly as big deals coming into this session, but how they played out there. A big emphasis was placed on border security in particular. We do now know that the governor has made that issue a part of this special session. What progress was made on that issue through the session, and then what is the governor hoping to achieve now?
Well, it was really interesting to see border security be another one of those issues that was emblematic of the differences between the Senate and the House. Of course, they are both Republican-controlled chambers. They don't disagree that they want to ramp up Operation Lone Star. They want to ramp up border security efforts, and it was just something that they couldn't see an agreement on. House Bill 7 was one of Speaker Phelan's priorities, along with House Bill 20, and those were really overhaul bills to change and increase border security measures. And eventually what happened is they kind of combined the two. The Senate had added some provisions, including a 10-year minimum sentence for anyone who is caught smuggling humans, and for migrants who enter anywhere but ports of entry in Texas, that would be a crime. So really just kind of ramping up some of those efforts there, but the Senate and the House couldn't agree on those details. So that's why the governor called them back here to the Capitol to actually come to an agreement on some of those measures, Will.
Additionally, this session is happening or wrapped up during the one-year anniversary of that deadly mass shooting in Uvalde. Republican leaders here in the state had made school security one of their priorities after that shooting. What was the initial idea that took hold in the legislature, and how did that end up this time?
House Bill 3 by Representative Joe Moody was really one of the big school safety bills that was talked about throughout this session, and it had a lot of different details to it. It was a pretty large package. It is off to the governor's desk now, but it is different than its original form. Originally, they wanted to increase the per pupil funding allotment for students. It would be raised to $100 per student, so that way those school districts do have the money to increase fencing, buy, bullet resistance glass, for example, things that they think will make their campuses safer and make parents feel more at ease when they're sending their kids to school. Now, once that bill got over to the Senate side, they really drastically decreased the funding to $10 per pupil per student. So it went from 100 to 10, really big difference. And the current allotment, Will, is like, some $9.70. So we really saw a 30-cent raise. So a lot of campuses that we've been talking to, different public school districts throughout the state, are concerned that this might be somewhat of an unfunded mandate. They have to increase a lot of their security measures. There's new requirements. The School Safety Center is going to be increasing its audits to make sure that school campuses are complying with some of these standards. And there's also a requirement for school districts to have at least one armed officer on each campus. And if they don't have the funds for an officer, then possible discussions about having an armed teacher or another employee on campus. So again, the whole goal of all of this is to just make students and parents and faculty feel safe at school, but there's a lot of concerns without as much funding going toward that, Will.
Monica, during the session we mentioned the families who lost loved ones during that shooting in Uvalde came to the Capitol quite a bit to lobby for other reforms they'd like to see. Some of the things that they talked about and asked lawmakers to approve, though, did not make it far at all. What was the update on that?
Yeah, that's right. One of the biggest things that the Uvalde families were calling for was to raise the age limit needed to purchase a semi-automatic style weapon, which is what the gunman used in Uvalde to kill those 19 children and 2 teachers. Right now you can be 18 to purchase it, and they wanted it to be changed to 21. So they were at the Capitol regularly holding press conferences and rallies, meeting with these lawmakers and sharing their really horrendous stories of what they've gone through and what happened to their children in hopes of getting some change. We did not see that pass. It did not get to a debate in the House floor, but however, there was some movement on that bill that is giving a lot of longtime gun activists here, gun control activists rather, some hope. And that was just the fact that we even got a hearing on that bill. And eventually, the Community Safety Committee, which was the one that was in charge of that bill, did vote to advance it. It never made it to the House floor, but 2 Republicans did vote in favor in advancing it. And for those families, we were there for that moment. They were crying happy tears perhaps for the first time in the last year, and although they're disappointed that it didn't make it across the finish line eventually, they do see that as movement. And I do want to point out, Will, the reason why I think we didn't see it come to the floor is Republican leaders have continually stressed that 1, they don't have the votes. They don't think they have the votes in the chamber for that. But 2, also, the governor and the speaker and the lieutenant governor often point to a growing number of federal judges who have been ruling that it's unconstitutional to regulate the age limit on firearms in general. So I think that's why we really didn't see any progress on that front.
Capitol correspondent Monica Madden, not only wrapping up the impeachment trial impending for Attorney General Ken Paxton, but updating us on a number of issues that are facing lawmakers too. Monica, thank you yet again for all your work. We really do appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, Will.
And we want to come back now here to the studio with Josh Hinkle, the state of Texas political host for our show that goes across the entire state of Texas. Josh, we mentioned there again that there is a possibility, excuse me, more special sessions coming up, and we are tracking that, of course. And the thing is, the governor can call as many as he wants moving forward.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Like I said before, there were as many as 3 right in a row. I believe it was 2013. And so it just depends on if his priorities made it through the regular session. Also, if something else pops up that might not even be on our radars yet. It might be an emergency item that the state needs to deal with, or something that is discovered through the course of the legislative process. Those special sessions can last up to 30 days. If they don't have the work done at the end of the 30 days, the clock resets, and so they can be coming back for an additional special session after that, but they have to start everything over from the very beginning of the legislative process again. So it can kind of be a bit of a time-consuming thing, especially when you're a lawmaker that might have another job, might live far away, needs to get back home and start doing other work. But the work of the state comes first when you're a lawmaker, right?
That is true, and there is no shortage of things for them to work on at this point. But Josh Hinkle, we appreciate you taking the time for the last 30 minutes or so to talk to this process for us, and always the latest developments will be shared during State of Texas that people can watch on Sundays.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, everybody. That is Josh Hinkle, and you've heard earlier from Monica Madden and Ryan Chandler, 2 of our intrepid Capitol correspondents, as they've been very, very busy, not only just this week, but the last few months, tracking everything that's developed within this legislative session. We do want to say thank you again for watching our Capitol Closeout discussion. Of course, we will have much more political coverage about what's happening at the Texas State Capitol on our website, kxann.com, as well as the KXAN News mobile app. Also, check out your station's website and app for the latest updates, too, because so much coverage will be found there if you want to track on some of these issues. Some that we didn't even get a chance to cover today, we do have that available for you, at least on our website, kxan.com. Thank you all again for watching. I'm Will Dupree here in the KXAN Live studio. We appreciate it. We will see you back here at another time. Hope you all stay safe and healthy out there. Take care.